topic for this one. Good morning and welcome to Beyond the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Watson, and I'm here on this fabulous Friday morning here Eastern Standard Time. We have a wonderful surprise guest, and we are just going to enjoy this Friday. There, yes, enter Kramer. Yes, thank you. We have a surprise guest who needs no introduction. But he is our good friend, Joaquin Flores. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, I'm good to see you, Nikki.
So excited and just thankful to have you here, and just thankful for your work and just everything that you always bring to the table. And we all have a lot of love for you, and again, just everything that you help us to understand. But there's just so many moving parts in the world that we live in, and it's nice to be able to have some grounding and good community and thoughts circulating. So how are you today?
I'm doing really good. I'm like, it's like one of these overcast days, and you sometimes like never feel that you're like really awake unless you like go overboard with coffee, and then at night you're like, oh, I can't sleep. You've got like restless leg syndrome and whatever. But I'm sacrificing for the team here. So
thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Very good. So we're all good. We may expect some technological things, that usually happens for various reasons. So I'm just looking through my XF catalog here, and I'm just like what shall we point our finger on? My chat doesn't necessarily work super well connected to StreamYard, but I do have the Rumble link up here in case. We stream live on Rumble, and we are also going to YouTube now, thankfully. I know a lot of people are allowed back on there. We were never kicked off, but we just didn't go there because of the various reasons. And so, but anyway, if anybody wants to comment or have a question or whatever, they can do that through the Rumble, and it'll just show up on the comments. And I'll just keep track of it if there's anything particular. But yes, I mean, where to start? In the XF.
Well, I was thinking, like like the internal politics in the United States, and like we're here in the first 25 years of the 21st century, and there's a lot of political realignment, like with the party system, and like who's being drawn to what. And you have, like, you talk about people that you engage with in your community, in where you live, but also in virtual spaces. And there's there's a lot lost in transition. There's a lot lost in the translation between like 20th century politics, especially like the last quarter or third of the 20th century, and now like as we close in on approaching the first third of the 21st century, and how many things have realigned and how many things have come to light, and the types of things that where the conversation among some sectors has moved, and kind of where it's been captured in other places. So I thought maybe that would be interesting to talk about. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be really great. Thank you. I don't know if you want to. I mean, I'll blubber on here, but I really we want to hear. I just want you to flow, but just sort of connecting the dots for people. That's sort of been like, we all have similar journeys here. From my perspective, just sort of like there's different levels of awakening, and when people sort of got involved in politics, and people weren't always involved in politics. And then when they shut schools down, it was like we were all sort of activated to be like, what's going on? And so that was sort of the big thing for so many of us. I feel like that we all have this invested interest on a local level, and we all are more alike than we are unalike, and just staying grounded in those things. And but anyway, so I've just always loved your work because you just put all of these different ideas together that just make so much sense. And but helping people understand, just taking it the next, like this show is called Beyond the Lines, but because for various reasons, but one of the reasons is because it's like, you know, we were hearing this phrase, hold the line. Like, what does that mean, right? What does holding the line mean? And then like, what happens beyond the line? Like like you're holding the line and then you go beyond the line, and what happens beyond the line of holding the line? And then
Right.
You have a new line to hold, maybe. But so
yeah, there was hold the line was, you know, as we were hitting the edge of the of we're on Rumble, so we can say it, of the stolen election in 2020.
Right.
And that was, you know, it was like hold the line, especially like leading up to January 6th, and then after January 6th, and then like all the way up to January 20th. And, you know, there were millions and millions and millions of people in the US that were hoping, you know, that there would be some, you know, Deus ex machina, or, you know, pulling the rabbit out of the hat, or something. And that didn't happen. And so now we're like beyond the lines. And then we had 4 years of the strangest, you know, administration ever. I mean, I'm not talking about the policies or anything. It's just, you know, people used to say like, oh, Reagan was going senile, or, you know, and there's they've admitted that now. At the time, I know Nancy Reagan memoirs and people have interviewed about that. But Biden was like beyond Reagan levels of senile, like beyond. I mean, you could just see him on the stage, and he was so frail and unclear even about where he was. And I mean, remember the times that like he would say the wrong shit altogether, and then like the White House would correct him, and it's like, who's the White House? Like, how can you know, what's this? Who's the guy in his ear? And like he would sometimes say the things that he was being told in his earpiece. Like, remember, he was like walking in the White House area, like in the garden towards the door of the Oval Office, and there's like a Marine Guard there, and he's supposed to say normally everything that he hears in the earpiece, like that's supposed to be his script. But the person in his earpiece was like, shake the guard's hand. Right. So then he says, he's like, shake the guard's hand. Like, what is this? Like, it was the weirdest fucking shit, dude. So like, it's little things like that, if people remember. And then when he was like in Poland during the start of the Russian SMO in Ukraine, he was like on stage, and he was saying like that we have to remove Putin, or that like that regime change was the goal. And then it was like the White House had to issue a clarification, and then it was like, then they were gaslighting us. Then it was like, then the New York Times and the Washington Post would be like, he didn't say that because the White House clarified. It's like, so my quote is wrong. Like, so I didn't hear that. Right. Like it was, I mean, that was a psyop. I mean, intentional or unintentional, that was an experiment of how far you can push people. And it's like, they really polarized the shit out of people, Nikki.
I know it. And I feel like we're having that a sort of, again, you know, in a similar way, similar demographic, and not as extreme, but we all recognize the signs. And so it's, you know.
Yeah, you see it like all the time. You'll see a leak or a fake quote in the UK, like in the Telegraph UK or Washington Post or New York Times. It's like, Trump is considering strikes on Ukraine or something, like whatever. It's like, well, right. Like on the Russian positions in Ukraine, to be clear, but it's like, or whatever. And it's like conjecture based upon rumor, based upon, you know, 4 people familiar with the story who are speaking on condition of anonymity. And you're like, this is exactly what the Church Commission reported in the 70s as like the foundation of CIA written fake news, you know, and like here we are 50 fucking years later, excuse my French, like on repeat with, it's like, why are people still reading these papers? Like I read them to figure out what's the lie, you know, like I want to know what the big lie is, but if someone's not, if their job or their, I would say self-assigned role isn't to analyze these things, and they're really trying to just figure out what's going on, like not what the lie is, but actually like to literally read it and be like, okay, that's what's happening. They're massively misinformed. So there's a crisis in legitimacy in legacy media, and a lot of the polarization and misinformation, like you've been so beautifully covering the Heather Cox Richardson phenomenon.
Yeah.
And all of these talking points are clearly this like Poland, Ukraine, NATO, Democrat Party, neoliberal, neocon axis. And she just shamelessly or retardedly, like take your pick, like, you know, like I don't know even what her fucking motivation is at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's your deconstructions of those have been great, but I mean, it's just fucking bizarre. I mean, it's not aimed at stupid or uneducated people, which are two different categories, to be clear. You know, they're aimed at people that are bright enough and that are technically educated. Again, technically two different categories. Sometimes the twain do meet. And it's a strange demographic. And it used to be like, I remember, like I'm old enough to remember that a lot of Democrat politics, like in the 90s and like in the lead up to the Obama period and maybe around there, like from Clinton through Obama, were actually people that had some grasp of the real issues in the country. Not all of them, like they were totally blind to monetary policy, the Federal Reserve, a number of things they weren't aware of, but they had awareness of real issues. I can't even think of a real issue that the opposition or Democrats or neocons within the Republican Party, I can't even articulate a single thing that they stand for. Like I know what they're against, but I don't know what they're for.
Exactly. I just watched a clip from Richardson the other night and or last night, and it was really interesting because she was saying how she believes in what she's saying in a way, and it almost like she said like that's a defense or something. And so it led me to, it's very interesting. It led me to believe that she believes in what she's saying, or she believes enough of it, so she has to keep her own self isolated. And you really can do that if you're in these isolated echo chambers of information and, you know, like blue sky and all that stuff. If she's being told this, but then she also says, like, she's talking about the No Kings rally, and she's like, you know, we have to say what we want. And, you know, this is our policy. This is the policy that I would like to see. And here's how I see this working. And it's almost like she's like poaching the audience. That may not be the right word, but like she's searching for people to like, we need you to tell us what to do. Like, we need you to be the ones who are taking the charge, because it's almost like this admittance that they don't have a policy. They don't have anything that they're fighting for. And you said it exactly right, which is, I don't know. I can't find one thing that they are fighting for that's based in reality that isn't already happening some way, somehow, just with the two-party system. Like, they're not, nothing is based in that reality. And the No Kings concept is so strange because
and that reminds me, it's like they're, and they get away, they're continuing, like it's, you know, people, I guess it's normal, right? We don't appreciate what we have, and we don't really know what we had until it's gone sometimes, if we're not conscientiously grateful for what we have. Then, you know, so I'm framing this to understand, like, there was this prolonged period, like, that was felt intensely by the proactive, blogging part of half of the country that faced tremendous, the historical precedent would be to totalitarian regimes, communism, fascism, that we experienced between 2010, 2012,
yeah,
and then it really didn't end, and it's really in many ways not over. But then after the Kirk assassination, then they're like, oh, what, there's going to be censorship now, and a lot of people are like, now, motherfucker, like now, like what is that?
yeah,
like so there's definitely a disconnect where the vlogging and blogging, politically active, creative part of the other half of the population, the other 48% or whatever, are now they're concerned about speech. And so many people for the past 10, 15 years have been deplatformed, debanked, like cut off of PayPal, kicked off of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, for saying things that are normal. Like, they're saying things that are actually the norms, and getting into norms and deviance, like from sociology.
yeah.
It's so, how to have these conversations that are important to have when there's like the 52% of the population, like, they're writers and bloggers generally are like acting like adults that can have conversations, and the other half have a political culture of like disdain and condescension and moral outrage that you are so far beyond the pale that you're a fascist, and so the only way that history is taught to deal with fascists is to smash you out, to block you, to kick you, to ban you. Like, that's what we should have done in Weimar Germany, and that's what we need to do now, because we've learned our, like, whatever. And it's such a mess. Like, they're being like, what I wanted to say is, I just saw a clip of Don Lemon, who's like trying to spin off and have clout and say and do provocative things that go viral. So of course there's that, but I mean, like, he's calling for he's calling racially for like people of color, which is the most, to me, offensive as a person of color, offensive lumping in of a bunch of people that maybe the common interests are class or legal nationality, but not race in a country or within a class. Like, that's really bizarre. And calling on, whether he says black or the many types of brown, whether you're Indian American, Hispanic, blah, blah, blah. He gives like a little list. He's like, get a gun, like, legally get a gun, so that when the, INS or ICE, or when the National Guard comes to your neighborhood, you're ready. And it's like, ready to what? Like, brandish? Like, discharge in the air? Or like, what is this? And how is that a legal call to action?
Right,
Like,
yeah, it doesn't sound that way.
there are only like maybe a small handful of like fringe people on the so-called right that have made similar calls, and they're not platformed. They're not Don Lemon. Like, there's no one like on the Tucker Carlson or anyone else like scale that would say this, that would feel normal saying this, that anyone would think was responsible to say, or that it wouldn't result like in the FBI at their house, a fucking raid. Like, how is he saying this? And then how do they believe that they are disempowered, or that the system is against them, when by definition they're empowered and encouraged to say and believe these very things, that are really illegal, in fact. And I'm not saying that if something's illegal, that it's always a good law. I mean, I'm definitely support reforming laws. I definitely support people protesting about real things.
Yeah.
But this is a call to action that literally no one else is allowed to make.
Right.
Like, he's speaking from a position of tremendous legal and social privilege, and he's somehow insured, like, against any repercussion. And I'm just, I'm trying to figure out, like, how he gets away with this. I have a theory, but yes.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I don't know what, I don't know what, and who's he talking to, right? Like, who's he even talking
I mean, he's talking to whoever, he's talking to, I guess he was addressing people of color, like, whatever that means.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, what person of color is listening to Don Lemon and being like, yeah, like, that's
well,
a
remember
good
that
idea.
clip that was going around, and we shared it on the New Resistance channel, of Don Lemon going around. It might have been Memphis or
with that guy,
it might have been something like that. And he's asking people, like, it's the Vox Populi thing, and he's like, Trump send the National Guard, what do you think?
Right.
And person after person, I think it was probably 90% Black people, were like, it's great, we support it. And he was like, okay. It's like, I mean, he did engage. Like, I do like his approach. Like, I do, like, I'm a normal person. Like, I'm reasonable. Like, I like Don Lemon's approach. Like, I think Don Lemon is polite enough when he's asking someone what they think, and he let them talk, and he the person starts talking, and he positions and hands the mic over more, and he's like, he's hearing them, so that was cool. But it's definitely not the responses he was looking for. It was definitely not what he wanted to get back. And it was like, every single person was like, this is a good thing. Like, we need this now. I think Baltimore. Yeah, it was Baltimore, Maryland. I remember now. Because then, like, one guy was like, we got to make Baltimore great again.
Yeah.
And it was like,
let's make Memphis great again. Let's make Atlanta great again. I just saw a guy on TikTok who, is just saying, like, yeah, come on, Trump, bring the National Guard in. Like, I see what you're doing in Memphis. Like, so the question is, what will Don Lemon do with his feedback? And is he going to continue staying in his isolation chamber?
I can almost see someone like Don Lemon doing like an Anna Kasparian. Like, I could kind of see him in the future kind of being like, because, people are driven by the metrics, or, he's probably definitionally an opportunist, kind of like Kasparian. So, like, I mean, I know, like, come on, think about Kasparian. Like, you're Armenian, and you're gonna, like, Armenian, like, family survived the Armenian genocide, and you're gonna be on a show called The Young Turks, which was the organization that exterminated Armenians, like, during the fucking Holocaust, the Armenian Holocaust. So she's an opportunist, to be clear, but she's like, she's grifting, and she sees, like, that the true culture has stayed put, and that the Overton window that the cultural Marxists, so-called, and others have, like, pushed, is not where people are at. It's totally alien. There's a big wall of reality between this so-called cultural Marxism and what people actually think and want. And so she's moved in the right direction in both senses of the term. And I can see someone like Don Lemon, out of the need to stay relevant, doing such a thing. I can definitely see that. I wouldn't trust him, but I can see him doing that. Like,
I mean, when life hands you lemons, make some lemonade. There you go, right there. That's his. There you go. You're, a little connectivity there, but that's it.
We're like cutting out.
That's it for Don Lemon. Now he has every opportunity and potentiality, right? Yeah, wouldn't trust him, but maybe, eventually he can go on Tucker or something. And I mean, that is what we're seeing is people, is the, this sort of just regulation of the nervous system of these people that do have platforms that are getting information out there. Someone like Tucker, who we wouldn't, exactly. Like, we know where he comes from and stuff, but at least he's doing a lot of the information presentationing.
Yes, presentationing. Yes, we'll make words. It's good. It's English, it's it's not like German where we can just make a new, neologism all the time. But it's but there's been a long, like, we have the National Guard going into cities. And we are in a new historical mode. We are in a new political reality, even going into what has forced this reaction, so to speak, of sending in the National Guard into cities, because we had a very strange precedent before that, which was also pretty novel, of taking these Operation Gladio-like ideas and methods called strategies of tension and using them in American cities to create a crime epidemic. And then you've got the population polarized around that. And, there's definitely some racial aspects that can be negativistically stoked. You can definitely stoke the archons of race and difference. Like, I can definitely see like I'm from LA, and I can definitely see like borderline racist white Orange County boomers being like, they're happy because it's going against people of color. Like, they actually just conflate. They just like, oh, they're all criminals, And but that doesn't mean that that's what's happening. It just that's who that might appeal to, as some segment, 10% or 15% that finds that appealing. But the New York Times, or the so-called left, the Democrats and their media machine and their pundits will try to characterize the whole thing that way. And they're talking about it like it's fascism. And it's like, no, like if for example, if organized labor was actually organizing instead of just organizing get out the vote for Democrats during elections, and there were like, in response to deteriorating economic conditions, there was a wave of strikes, and where people were organizing for working conditions, maybe ownership, co-ownership, like stock options, hours, healthcare, real issues that affect Americans. And then the National Guard was being sent in to like stop those strikes. Like, that could be considered authoritarian or fascist or something like that. This is something else. Like, the left wants to believe that just because these raids are occurring in cities, which are by definition, like on planet Earth, by definition, like most people work for a living. So you could call those people workers. You could call those people workers because they work for a living. But the mobilization of the military into these cities is not to attack them on broadly. It's not to attack most of them. It's not to really to attack any legal operating living person. It's not to leverage against their right to organize or to break a picket line or to disrupt genuine community action. Like, this is clearly aimed at what it looks like and what you see, and what has been explicitly said as well. Like, there's no ulterior motive. It's like, there's drugs, there is criminal, there is a very strange and sad thing that has happened with the Sorosian NGOs in creating these tent cities and ideologizing them. But there's also drugs being pumped in there, and they're creating cycles of despair, prostitution, violence, drug addiction. And it happens to, like, those people are the victims of this, right? But that doesn't mean that you can keep pumping life into it either, right? Like you can't be an enabler either, right? Like, so, it's but they're very strange times to live through. But I can definitely see how to people that live in suburbs and people like, you know, in the eastern seaboard of the New England states, like Heather Cox Richardson, I can definitely see how people from white middle class, upper middle class suburban America who fit that college educated demographic that's been sort of inculcated and taught to react or to see things through a very cookie cutter lens. I can definitely understand how this polarizes them, and they're like, oh my God, Trump is attacking inner city workers. And then you actually talk to inner city workers, and people, like workers is like this kind of strange leftoid term, like citizens, like people that happen to work for a living, right? And you talk to them and you're like, yes, we need this, like we support this. You look at the so-called protests against it, you know, and you see maybe 50 people, 100 people, the camera is doing the typical CNN color revolution game of like getting the shot low so you can't see that it's only 2 ranks deep of people. You're like, you can make it look like it's hundreds of people, but you can really see that it's just 30 people, 70, maybe 100 people. And there's no mass mobilization of real community organizations, of labor, of the historical left against what you're seeing, because people can't be fucked with. Like they can't be like, they're like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm happy that the National Guard is here. Like we should have had this sooner. You know, there was that one woman that we shared her comments, and I think she was from Memphis. Dee Dee Manning is like her name. I think she's on TikTok or Instagram, and she's talking about, I mean, she had a very nuanced and deep analysis. She was saying like, this is not a cure. Like this is not going to address the fundamental root issues. Like there are deeper socioeconomic issues at play here. But today my children are playing in the backyard for the first time ever in years. And then she pans the camera and you just see like this mother and child walking down the street. You see a kid shooting hoops. She's like, I haven't heard a gunshot in weeks. Like this is what we need right now, you know? So yeah, these are trying times though.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and I just wonder, like, do people not, get that? I mean, did people not see those clips? Do they not know? Because you really only have to see a couple of them to be like, huh, like, oh, wow. But no, it's just a small, just a little Wi-Fi connectivity issue there on your end. But just like a small port, I think that we are dealing with like a smaller part of the population, but it does seem so loud because they screw with view counts and likes and all that stuff. And then you do have people that do repeat the narratives. And I can see how people think that, like you said, like they live in, just based on you're back, just based on someone's demographic area, I can see how they fall into that category and are in that fog of just that makes sense to them. That's their worldview, and that could have been me, and at times it was me, not knowing sort of what I know now and seeing that. But the evidence is out there with TikTok, and people are making videos all the time of these stories like Dee Dee's, and so. Right. And you're saying, and this is what's based in reality. So we're just following. It's so interesting to follow it to see how it's getting distorted. And I've been watching this one commentary who the Black conservative preacher or something. He's been recording live from Portland on Facebook and just chronicling like what's going on. And yeah, there's something very manufactured about it. Like you said, it's like not based in real issues that having to do with organized labor and like actual we're working toward, like, we're fighting for this exact issue and we're all coming together and we're fighting for this issue that is based in reality, advocating for a bill or a specific solution.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, there is no specific solution, and it actually is.
I mean, the National Guard or whoever, they're not being mobilized to put down any social movement. You know, like you have a few extremists and lunatics trying to cobble together 30, 40 people to make optics against the National Guard coming in to clean up the streets. You know, I mean, there was a couple months ago when this stuff started, there was a little clip of some guys sitting on a porch, hanging out, maybe smoking some weed, drinking some 40s, and the National Guard guys or whoever came through, and they would just kind of very politely did like a kind of know your rights, and okay, so this is what's going on, tell your homies, tell your friends, like chill on the deals, like don't be trying to sell drugs, like, Trump has a mandate, people don't want the crime anymore, all right, you guys have a good night. And a lot of people are like, they might have something to slang or whatever, they might, but on another subconscious level, they're like, yeah, it's probably better for everybody if we're not doing this kind of stuff, and I think that's getting through to people. But there's an alternate reality where mostly white, suburban, Democrat-leaning, middle-class America actually doesn't understand what's going on. They don't understand sanctuary cities. They don't understand the catch and release policies. They don't understand how we have policies in these same cities that happen to be sanctuary cities, because once you have a city council that's oriented towards these explicitly Soros NGO campaigns, like people that sit on city councils in cities across America, their inboxes are flooded with these, hey, we'd like to come meet with you. Like, we represent your constituents. And it's like, oh, you don't. Like, you represent some globalist NGO that has a few employees in this city. And then they like want to act like, oh, we speak for your, and it can be really offensive to elected officials who actually know their constituents. And they're like, you guys represent yourselves. But they have the same agenda, Nikki. So in places that are sanctuary cities are also places where they have these Soros, let's say, appointed, like that's a good term to use. Obviously, it's through the Democrat neoliberal industrial complex, but these Democrat appointed judges, we can say Soros appointed judges, they have some theory. They're using, critical race theory, which has many good points. Like if you look at the history of looking at disparity in sentencing norms, and you look at latent, if you look at latent systemic racism, there's a real issue there. But that doesn't mean that you take a 4-time convicted rapist, drug dealer, attempted murder guy and let him out after 3 years. Like that's also not good for society. Like, it doesn't, but a lot of these judges, they have their daughter goes to some liberal arts college. They're like, okay, I'm making my daughter happy. I'm being convinced that this is the historical moment and the vibe that we're in. I'm getting money from DNC donors. I've been selected or I'm running to be a judge in places that are elected judges. You also have appointed judges. And, life is in this arena, being member of this or that bar association. It's going to the events. It's networking, it's, rubbing elbows, and it's, so there's, but it feels good, and you feel like, okay, this is real community, this is a real synergy of politics and, progressive philanthropic NGOs, and what my college educated or college daughter thinks is what the people want, and you feel like you're ticking all the boxes, like you feel like you're making everyone happy. The problem is you're not making the majority of people happy. You're living in a simulation. So yeah, it's a fascinating political structure in the US and how that all works.
Yeah, I know. And so it's like a toggling between sort of just observing it and being a witness to it, and then sort of understanding and sort of tapping into it, like having that empathy, but also just recognizing like where are people at, and I care about people, and I care about conversations and how people really feel and what people really want, and so yeah, so that's sort of why I care also, is trying to understand where people are at and what people actually think. But I think you describe it so well. But we are seeing it sort of change. I mean, for in various ways here, and it would seem that people are, that's what people want, and it's not. It is for the reasons they're saying. It's not this sort of inverted, to authoritarian thing that's happening. It is for the reasons, and then for them to defend criminals, essentially. Are there going to be some people that fall into the mix that it wasn't, they weren't guilty of, are there going to be people that fall right? I'm sure, but they know where everybody is. They know that these organizations exist and such. So what are people really protesting against? You're fighting against.
Right.
It's so
yes, there's going to be people who are wrongly detained. There's going to be people that were in the wrong place at the wrong time because the police fucked up and made it the wrong place at the wrong time for them. And I mean, I support those people suing police departments or making sure that these law enforcement and quasi-military operations in the cities are held to account. Like, both can be true. Like, you can want both things. You can, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, this is such an unnecessarily polarizing national conversation that we're having. It's like, the police can also fuck up, and people should also be able to sue the police. There should be limits or a redefinition of things like qualified immunity. I mean, you can approach, like, the whole effort to like defund the police, for example, was such a step in the wrong direction. Like, so many of these police departments are underfunded. In fact, they're underfunded. They're having a hard time with paying police officers enough, negotiating with our broken medical system, Blue Cross Blue Shield or Kaiser HMO. Premiums keep going up. This year, I think, is a record increase in more than 15 years of health insurance premiums going up, right? So this is affecting teachers, nurses, the public sector, private sector, employees, union, non-union, police officers, and firefighters big time. So this whole effort to defund the police, and then, but we will give the police like leftover equipment from the disgusting occupation of Iraq. Like, here, let's give them some Humvees and some like shit that they don't, in their kind of bad physical condition, look ridiculous trying to operate. And probably it's a bad presence and it's bad optics. And people kind of respond negatively to that. It's like, they have money to give them these. It's like, no, the police departments didn't purchase these. Like, this is like they're being gifted in these other kind of, police fetish projects that are unrelated to the well-being of communities or to the salaries and training of police officers. So, like I've said, we need to fund the police more. We have to fund the police more, and we need to set up a schedule to further educate and train the police that we have, so that they don't violate people's rights, so that in the culture of policing has gone a little bit adversarial. But how not? Like, how not when there's been the strategy of tension of catch and release? Like, police will arrest somebody that they should arrest, and then the judge is like a Soros appointed judge, and then like lets them off, and then the police see that guy again, and they're human beings, and I'm not advocating for this, but this is human nature. Like, they're gonna fucking beat the guy up. They're like, because they know that they're gonna arrest them. They know that they're gonna book them. They know that that the DA is gonna make a deal with the public defender, because they already know that the fucking judge is gonna throw out the case or reduce the charges, or the guy's gonna be out in 3 days, or you're gonna have bailless release, like release without bail.
Yeah.
Like that Ukrainian girl that was like murdered by that guy on the train, on the subway or the train some months ago. Like, he was out on bail without bail. He was out pending trial for the last fucking insane thing that he did without any bail. So there's like no accountability. There's no buy-in to that. You have to behave at least until your trial. Like, so, the whole dialectic is fucked up, but to compartmentalize it won't be a solution, but you definitely have to address the underlying issues. All of these are connected. Like, people don't really understand the connection between reducing inner city crime and charging countries tariffs, like other countries tariffs, right? Like they don't understand the connection between, it's like the left forgot how to do sociology. You know what I mean? Like there's a connection between outsourcing jobs and poverty in the cities, right? Like you need to have industry, you need to have meaningful work, you need to have work with dignity and wages that you can support a family with, you know. Otherwise there's hopelessness, there's despair, there's untreated chronic social issues that are experienced by individuals, like depression, that leads to drug abuse, that leads to recidivism, the prison industrial complex. So all these things are connected. The left used to understand this. Now it's just, they're just reacting to the very problems that they have actually been a part of, very sadly, bringing to life, you know, through these piecemeal and strange cultural tropes for the past 20, 30 years. So it's a monumental battle that we are engaged in right now. And I don't think that people on the left understand that we understand these issues. Like you know what I mean? Like we get this, like we get this and we get you. We don't disagree about so many things. We just actually understand that you need the tariffs to change the trade balance. You know, you can't be financing fucking Zelensky and trying to destroy Russia. Like that's like the money and the weapons that are spent could be rebuilding schools, hospitals, roads. Like the left used to understand these things, you know. That's what's so fucking bizarre about all of this. Now it's like to be on the left is to have like a I love Zelensky, you know, badge on your Instagram or your TikTok. It's like, you know, like what does this fascist dictator in Kiev have to do with social justice anywhere in the world or with issues that affect Americans, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to put together. Like, why, like they're trying to make it a domestic issue, like Richardson's work or something. I'm just using her as the example, as the narrative example, but and the messaging and the belief around it, what people think they're doing. And they're saying, you know, we don't want authoritarianism, but then it's like, but we have to preserve democracy in Ukraine. And it's like, what do you think is going on?
What
Right.
do they
So
think
it's like, we understand that. Yeah. And we don't want our tax dollars going to fund.
Right. I mean, how can you make the argument about Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security when also let's destroy the world? Like, let's also fund World War III and then the mushroom cloud. It's like, that's not going to help anybody. So, and they are desperate for people not to get this. Like, they want the right wing to be neoliberal. They want the so-called right to be to be subscribing to the cult of market fundamentalism. They want conservatism to be conservatism that legitimizes themselves, right? Yeah. So what they don't want they don't want a social movement. They don't want a social pole that's communitarian. Like, they don't want a social pole that understands that, you know, that order and justice and beauty and good is hierarchically arranged in a top-down fashion coming from benevolent creator, and that people are mobilized towards the good through those structures and through that order, right? And that we champion social justice. So they want to make sure that gets characterized as fascism, so that they can just not talk about it, they don't have to engage it, and they can just smash it out with their hooligans, with their Antifa or whatever, with their deplatforming. It's not just the street thugs, it's the banks, it's the it's Stripe, it's PayPal, Venmo. They're trying to eliminate these voices by saying, hey, you can't be religious or even believe in God. You can't believe in country. You can't believe in law and support social justice. You have to be part of this counterculture of the postmodern, quasi-post left that has this, bent on the deconstruction or dissolution of society, based upon, Freudian ideas of polyamory, taking from the Frankfurt School, taking, critical theory or French post-structuralism and fusing that with neo-anarchist theory, and then presenting that as norms, and then everything else is deviance, fascism. Like, we see through this also. So we also get that, you know what I mean? So, and all of that is meant to keep problems from being solved. And it's meant to keep people from coming together. So I wish that they could understand, like, the people that are behind that project to keep things polarized, they may or may not know, but we don't need to reach them. It's the people that are being convinced of this among the populace, the other 45%, so to speak, that need to hear this message. They need to know that we get it, and this is actually the fight that they thought that they were having that never went anywhere. The betrayals of Obama, the betrayals of Clinton, in England, the betrayals of Starmer or Tony Blair, et cetera, of Labor. We represent that pole that actually brings together, structure, social justice, patriotism together into one thing that is the historical, like, proven winning solution, like, is the funny thing. So people need to see that it's okay to be against empire, but also love your country. People have to see that actually empire is against the country, and that you can't actually articulate internationalism if you're also advocating the abolition of nations. Like, the word internationalism, like, the predicate concept is that nations exist and that they're cooperating. You see what I mean? So you can't have peace between nations if you're bent on chaos that destroys each nation. You see, like, that's actually what drives wars. So yeah, it's there's so many things that I see people are getting, and I'm very optimistic about. And I think that's why it's so ridiculous that we keep, coming across these clearly manufactured pundits, masquerading as historians or whatever, like Heather Cox Richardson. I mean, and it's so clear that there's so much black hat SEO and bullshit going on. Like, they're clearly fake followers that are making fake comments. It's like AI mixed with some bot farm in India or wherever, right? And like, remember when you spotted that actually one of their Eastern European, probably Polish or Ukrainian CIA, Columbia University people, right, is actually running the Heather Cox Richardson account on Facebook, or part of the time or most of the time? And then, like, that was a great fucking spot, man. That was like, you actually caught them before they switched accounts. Like, they commented how Heather's supposed to comment, but it was from that Katya, whatever her name is. Yeah. From NATO-landia somewhere, from NATO stan. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, no, somebody said, oh, you have a grammatical error. Somebody was editing her post, proofreading it. And then that Katya account said, oh, thank you, or something, or fix that.
Yeah, thank you, I fixed it. So that means that means that you run or access normally and write the Heather Cox Richardson account. So the next thing, and what I hope people get into, to investigate people like this, is to look at how they're using the ActBlue fundraising method based upon what's allowed in rulings like Citizens United, which is not a very good ruling at all. It's not good for labor. It's not good for a lot of things. But if you're trying to simulate popular support for something, and you've got limitless Soros money, you can establish a PAC or an NGO, and then you can have thousands of ghost fake accounts that are each giving like $10 a month to pretend to read Heather Cox Richardson's most boring fucking Substack ever. It's the most boring. It's like, it's so boring and fake. And it's not because I disagree with it. It's just a training academy for people that haven't quite gotten hired at Washington Post or New York Times, but it's the same subject material. It's the same writing style. There's no reason. There's no breaking story. There's no investigation. There's no narrative difference with WAPO, New York Times. It's exactly those writers who just haven't gotten hired there yet. So it's kind of like their training, whatever. And it's so fake. Like there's just bot farms that are subscribed to that and that click on it to give it view counts, and and maybe even corruption at the level of Substack that is probably aware of this or is being encouraged to not be aware of this at least. And like it's a simulation. And what a lot of these people, a lot of people that kind of are more tech savvy, are more finance savvy, they tend to be a little bit more individualist, or if they have a social impetus, they see right through the bullshit of these like managed fake social projects. Like they're savvy enough to understand how bullshit politics is. So unfortunately, that gets characterized nowadays as like being on the right. It might make them more libertarian. They could still even be like anarchist or socialist of a type, actually, but they definitely see through the Democrat industrial complex, and they definitely see how manufactured so many of these so-called projects, whether it's on Twitch or anywhere else, the subscriber base is artificial, and the revenues through Patreon or through Substack are coming from one or two sources, and it's millions of dollars for some of these people. They're just employees as if it was a TV show 30 years ago. They're just actors or whatever, performers that same way they used to have a budget for those people on NBC on a sitcom or the nightly news 60 Minutes. It's just the same thing, attenuated for social media, where they're trying to simulate grassroots support, which is called astroturfing. And people see through this, but people who are on that side, in that 45% of voters, and that, again, it's maybe 5 or 10% of them that are actually following these manufactured issues among those 45% of, blue state type people. They don't see that it's a simulation that they're in. And that's why they thought that Trump was just an anomaly, or that Trump didn't have a mandate. The things that Mike Benz was talking about in that other piece that you deconstructed on your show a couple weeks ago.
I have to plug my computer in. Will you talk for 1 minute? I have to plug my computer.
Yeah, of course I can definitely pull that off, man. So Mike Benz was deconstructing this. I think we did an XF live stream talking about it. I know, Nikki, you did a show on it as well. You had the audio and visual and everything, which was great. And he's showing exactly that from what has been released of these conversations from these message and media managers from the old guard. They're both neocon Republican and Democrat. So this is not like a partisan thing. They were showing that in their communications, they're like, Trump is an anomaly. He doesn't really have a mandate. We're going to create the media understanding among the public that we can reach that this is a temporary thing. And so we're going to pretend like his voting base is unusual, that he doesn't have a mandate. We're going to keep this line that they're the deplorables and that they're a very small minority, even though they probably represent 60 or 70% of what Americans think. And what people don't understand about the 2016 election that Trump won is that all those efforts to like steal the election that you saw in 2020 were done in 2016. It was just 50 or 100,000 votes less fraud that they needed to win, so Trump won. But there were still millions more people that voted for Trump even in 2016, right? That we don't know, like history won't record it that way. But we know from how the game has worked. Like we now know that they also tried to steal 2016, but they just didn't print enough ballots. Like they needed to actually have a pandemic and mail-in ballots and this whole rigmarole did I just use rigmarole? To do this, I did. To do this scam, you know, the scam election. So it's really, I think, you know, when people are trying to figure out, like when you have like stubborn idiots like Bernie Sanders, who at times articulates a good opinion about something, but then quickly, cowardly, like, you know, retracts whenever it's time for him to give up, which is his job, by the way, is to give up. Like, imagine that being your job, to like give up. But anyway, like this, yeah. Right? So he was like articulating like why conservative, and like very few of us, very few MAGA people are conservative. Like they actually tend to be open-minded, tend to be many things that used to be characterized with the left, so to speak. He's trying to explain why conservatives, whatever that means, are better at getting their message out. And then he has to lie and act like for the past 20 years, it hasn't been these Sorosists that have controlled social media. So he just wants to refer to the fact that, like, as of last month, like Ellison has a control on TikTok, or since 1 year ago or whatever, yeah, Elon Musk has X. Like, these are this much, if the timeline is this long of Soros control, in the broad sense, Soros control of social media, like this much time represents how much time that there's been, you know, 1 or 2 platforms that are not, you know, but it's still like, he didn't mention Meta, which is all the censorship and killing people on WhatsApp, like all those people at Bucha that were killed by the Ukrainians actually were messaging pro-Russian statements and on WhatsApp, and that's how they targeted them for murder. Like, so Zuckerberg, WhatsApp was operationalized by the SBU in Ukraine to murder people that were messaging each other like, oh, we're so glad the Russians came, or this is where to get food from the Russian army, right? Like that's how they targeted people for murder. People all the time are censored and can't share videos and certain memes and tropes on WhatsApp. Instagram, Facebook, the metaverse, like these are all Zuckerberg, who's now trying to be like a curly-haired fucking libertarian or something. Right. It's like Jeff Bezos owns WAPO. No one is fooled, bro. No one is fooled. So it's like, yeah, Bernie Sanders trying to say or rationalize, you know, how come conservatives are better at getting their message out. I would argue that it's 2 things. Number one, shit has to be funny. Like it has to be entertaining to a lot of people. And humor is fundamentally subversive to power. So what makes something funny is that you're speaking truth to power. So, but that means that you are speaking truth to power. So that actually shows the real power dynamic. Like it actually shows who has the power, because you can't be funny and be a sycophant for power, right? Like there's nothing funny about that, right? And people get that immediately. It's like in our DNA, right? So, and the other part of it is that it's not that, so there is that power dynamic, but what that means that that's the majority of people, right? So it's also not just that conservatives, whatever that means, are better at getting their message out. It means that there are more people that are receptive to that message because we are the majority. Like we are the majority. So once people put those pieces together, like the light goes on, and like once the light goes on, it's really hard to turn it off. So like the ding, ba boom, ba bing. Here we are. I feel optimistic.
there it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we are the majority for sure. And but that's it. When it goes off, it's hard to, yes. And that's what they don't want, like you said. And you put it so well when you were saying that's why I think they do want to label and characterize people and try and confuse people about who MAGA is or what's going on, because then they can control it and crush it, and get rid of it and do their thing. Yeah. So, well, thank you for covering for me too when my charger died there, or when I need to grab my charger. We're about an hour and 4 minutes. So, do you want to do like a final wrap up, or like an ending words, or do you have whatever you want to? Do you have more time, or should we do like a
Yeah,
outro?
I'm going to pick up my little bambinos at the preschool in 5 minutes. So I will leave you your audience with these words.
Okay.
Do not be afraid. Fear is the killer. Proceed with joy and dignity, humility and love. Do not do what they're doing. Don't mirror their negativity with negativity. That's what they are relying on to justify their negativity. So kill them with love, and that is my my final and parting message.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you to everybody for checking us out today. I like and subscribe, as they say, and thank you again so much for taking your time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And catch everybody next time.
Bye.